December 7th, 1941. The sun rose gently over the calm waters of Pearl Harbor, Hawaii. It was a Sunday, quiet, peaceful, almost lazy. Most American sailors were just waking up, some still dreaming, others already lined up for breakfast. The battleships stood proud and massive, their steel hulls gleaming under the morning light. The USS Arizona, USS Oklahoma, USS West Virginia, and others resting like silent giants. No one knew the sky would soon burn. Among the sailors aboard the USS Arizona was 19-year-old Private First Class Danny Walker. A farm boy from Kansas, Danny had enlisted just 6 months before. He often wrote letters to his mother, promising her he'd return home safe, talking about how warm Hawaii was and how he'd never seen water so blue. That morning, he sat on the lower deck, sipping weak coffee, joking around with his friend, Corporal James Jimmy Harris, a quick-witted mechanic from Boston who never stopped talking about buying a motorcycle after his service ended. "Think they'll let us off base today?" Jimmy grumbled. Danny shrugged. "Maybe. If I'm lucky, I'll hit the beach. Maybe I'll even get a postcard from my sister." It felt like any other morning. Until 7:55 a.m. A low, distant roar echoed across the harbor, like thunder that didn't belong. Danny paused, coffee cup halfway to his lips. Then came the scream of engines overhead. Jimmy looked up. "You hear that?" Without warning, the calm sky filled with dark shapes. Dozens of aircraft painted with a blazing red circle on their wings. The rising sun of Japan. Time froze. Then the first bomb fell. A thunderous explosion erupted near Battleship Row, sending a fiery blast into the sky. Alarms screamed across the harbor. "This is not a drill. All hands to battle stations." Danny's heart raced as he and Jimmy sprinted out onto the deck. The entire harbor was chaos. Japanese dive bombers swooped low, their sirens wailing like banshees. "Move, Danny," Jimmy shouted, pushing him toward the anti-aircraft guns. Above them, Japanese pilots streamed in waves, their engines howling as bombs plummeted like fiery meteors. Machine gun fire echoed across the bay. One of the first ships hit was the USS Oklahoma. Torpedoes slammed into her hull, ripping her open. The massive ship groaned like a dying beast before slowly rolling over, trapping hundreds of sailors below deck. Danny manned a gun station alongside several other sailors. His hands trembled as he loaded shells. The sailor next to him muttered a prayer under his breath. "God help us. God help us." Jimmy barked. "Take AIM. Take them down." Their gun roared as Danny pulled the trigger. He could barely hear anything over the explosions and screams, the world a blur of fire, smoke, and metal. Another explosion, a massive one. Danny jerked his head toward the Arizona. A Japanese bomb had slammed into the forward deck near the ammunition magazine. For a split second, there was silence. Then the Arizona exploded in a monstrous, blinding fireball, the blast tearing the ship apart. The shockwave threw Danny to the deck. Flames shot hundreds of feet into the air. Hundreds of sailors were instantly killed. Danny felt the heat scorch his face. His ears rang. For a moment, he couldn't move. Jimmy grabbed him. "Danny, stay with me. We gotta keep firing." Danny forced himself to stand. Tears blurred his vision, not from fear, but from the smoke, the burning oil, and the sight of men screaming for help, some engulfed in flames, others leaping into the water desperately. The harbor water, once crystal blue, now burned black with oil and fire. Above them, waves of aircraft continued their deadly dance. Torpedo planes skimmed the surface of the water before unleashing destruction. Bombers swooped with terrifying precision. Fighters strafed sailors running on deck, mercilessly cutting them down. Commander Logan, a seasoned officer with a booming voice, shouted orders despite a wound on his forehead. "Keep those guns firing. Do not let them own our skies." Danny obeyed, his fear replaced by a burning determination. He spotted a Japanese Zero diving toward them and opened fire. The shells burst in the air near the plane, and for a moment, it wobbled, then burst into flame. The plane spiraled down, crashing into the harbor. Jimmy grinned fiercely. "You got one, Danny." But there was no time to celebrate. On the other side of the harbor, the USS West Virginia was sinking. The Nevada, the only battleship trying to escape, attempted to make a run for the open sea, but was hit repeatedly and forced to beach itself. All around them, men screamed for medics. Others prayed. Some dove into the water to help the wounded, only to be caught in burning oil. Danny's gun jammed. He dropped behind cover as a bomb exploded nearby, shaking the deck beneath him. Jimmy yelled, "We got to get below and help the wounded." They rushed into the smoke-filled corridors. The air was thick, suffocating. They found injured sailors lying on the floor, groaning in pain. Danny and Jimmy carried them toward the medical bay, stepping over shattered glass and debris. One sailor, barely conscious, clutched Danny's sleeve and whispered, "Tell my wife. I love her." Danny nodded, choking back a sob. "You'll tell her yourself. Stay with me." But deep down, he feared the sailor wouldn't make it. Outside, the attack lasted nearly 2 hours, but to those who lived it, it felt like an eternity. Finally, as suddenly as it began, the skies grew quieter. The last wave of Japanese aircraft pulled away, heading back toward their carriers. They left behind a harbor in ruins. Danny and Jimmy stood on deck, exhausted, covered in smoke and soot. They looked out at the devastation. The Arizona still burned fiercely, a blazing inferno. The Oklahoma lay capsized. The California and West Virginia sank slowly into the harbor. Oil fires raged across the water. The stench of burning metal, oil, and death filled the air. Jimmy whispered, How many are gone?" Danny couldn't answer. His throat ached, his chest heavy with grief. Commander Logan walked past them, his uniform torn, his face covered in ash. His voice was hoarse but resolute. "Men, this is not the end. This is the beginning. The United States will rise. We will remember this day." That night, Danny sat on a crate near the water, writing a letter to his mother. His hands shook, tears dripping onto the paper. "Dear Mom, something terrible happened today." He wrote about the explosions, the terror, and the friends he helped save. But most of all, he wrote about the promise he now carried, the promise to fight, not for revenge, but so that no other morning would ever burn like this again. December 7th, 1941, a date that would echo through history, a day when heroes were born in fire, and a day America vowed it would never forget.